I'm Stephen Gorelick, Executive Director of the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission.
I'm Christiane Krone-Raab. I'm head of the Berlin Brandenburg Film Commission at Medienboard in Germany.
I'm Stefania Ippoliti, Director of Toscana Film Commission in Italy.
I'm Kevin Narraway, Manager of Marketing and Tourism for the Municipality of Port Hope.
3, 2, 1. Hello, I'm Leah Rose, and today we are here to talk to the LMGI's 7th Annual Awards nominees for Outstanding Film Commissions. Our nominee panel was nominated for their exemplary and creative work performed above and beyond the usual service provided to location professionals. Today we travel around the globe to Toscana, Italy, Port Hope, Canada, New Jersey, United States, and Berlin, Germany. We have a lot of ground to cover, so here we go. Hello, Stefania Ippoliti, how are you and where are you zooming in from?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
Where are you zooming in from today?
I'm here in my home in Florence. You know that we are in the late afternoon here in Italy, and so this has been a holiday day, and so you find me in my home.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. You were nominated. Thank you. You were nominated for your work in 6 Underground. How did you handle filming requests with such iconic locations?
First of all, we have been, as I said, very excited because it's been so huge for us. As you can imagine, we are a small, ancient city. And so for us, this has been quite a challenge. And so we decided to handle with great care everything. We have been very lucky because the organization of the production was so good. And they help us a lot with the authority here in town and with the superintendent for architectural heritage and landscape. As you can imagine, if you are here in the very center of this ancient city, you have to handle with care the city, the citizen, the monuments, everything. And so we start from the very beginning, trying to take a deep breath, and we start.
So what changed to allow such unprecedented access to some of your never shot before historic locations? And also, will you please tell us about access to Il Duomo and how is this perceived by the public?
No, something has been really the very first time for us to try to organize some of these very precious and delicate and fragile location as a set. Could you imagine the Corridoio Vasariano that is close to the river, to the Arno River, where the production decided to have a terrible ride of bikers inside the Corridoio Vasariano. Never happened before. And the second very challenging things has been that they go inside with one of these race car in the big door of the Palace of Medici, the Medici family, the very first palace of the Medici family. And this has been so challenging because what they had to do is possible just once. And so everything has to be organized perfectly. And we have had to struggle a lot because we have to let the mayor of Florence decide that this is something possible and nothing would be damaged from these things. And then they decide to shoot a parkour on the dome of the Cathedral of Florence. And all the Florentine people, the tourists and the visitor, as you can imagine, because it was August in the middle of the vacation and the holidays. So maybe there were here not so many Florentine people, not so many of my citizens, but a lot of visitors. And they were so astonished. What is happening? Everybody was asking. Was wonderful, because as you can see, if you have had the possibility to watch the movie, the director and all the troupe, they did really a miracle. And we have to ask the permission, of course, to the Opera Museum. And at the very first time, they can't believe what we are trying to explain to them, what what we want to do. Anyway, as I said, so challenging, but so happy that everything was going perfectly.
Excellent. So when a large production is asking to film in Toscana, how do you balance the needs of a production and the welfare of thousands of tourists?
We try to find the right moment, trying to find a balance between the needs of both of them, visitors and tourists, and the set, the location, the production. As you can imagine, it's easier for us if production come here in Tuscany and not during the summer or the spring that are so strong in terms of visitors. But we can manage because with the exception of the very, very center of Florence or maybe San Gimignano, that are very crowded of tourists, we can find places that are perfectly suitable for cinema, just to be used as set. Because in Tuscany, we can find maybe in a smaller place, something that is very similar to the very center of Florence. And so maybe we can pretend to be in the very center of Florence, but we are not. In the case, in the experience with Six Underground, everything was really in Florence. And as I said, it is a sort of a miracle that we can succeed keeping together of all these different needs. But we can.
Fantastic. So what time of year did Six Underground actually shoot?
August, a very crowded, successful August. It was I mean, a year with no kind of emergency. I mean, you know, now we are all in a strange and weird situation about, I mean, all over the world, but that year was one of our very successful from the point of view of visitors summer. And so what we did is trying to make a sort of performance also for the visitors. And so maybe they have had the patience to stay there just for a while, looking what is happening, and was really a lot of fun.
Great. What is the most difficult situation you face as the film commissioner in Toscana?
You mean in the years? Yeah. I want to say this. We have had here an episode of the Twilight Saga, No Moon, and they decided to set up the production not in Volterra, where it was supposed to be, but in Montepulciano. That is a little village not far from Volterra. And the most difficult things that I have to figure out is the delusion of the Volterra people that this beautiful movie was being set in another city, not in Volterra. And as you can, maybe you know that in Tuscany there is a lot of competition about different villages and cities. And so could you imagine that we have to bring peace between these two villages? Volterra was, I mean, skipped of this wonderful production, and Montepulciano had this big opportunity, and they pretend to be in Volterra. So what I have to figure as a very difficult things is to manage this competition, these rivals between the two cities.
Well, this was such an exciting production. Congratulations on such success, and we wish you luck.
Thank you.
Hello, Kevin Narraway. Where are you zooming in from?
From Port Hope, Ontario in Canada.
We appreciate your time. You were nominated for your work on It Too. Have you seen a change in Port Hope filming since It and It Too filmed?
Definitely there's been a lot of interest in filming in Port Hope. Port Hope is about 1 hour drive from the city of Toronto. The city of Toronto has a huge film industry. And people were always sort of reluctant to make that 1 hour drive just a little bit east of Toronto to come and film. But now more and more, we're getting more inquiries, we're getting more interest. And I do see that that area of Eastern Ontario will become much more involved with filming going forward because of that. I think it opened a lot of doorways for filming in the eastern part of the province.
Great. How did you pitch your locations to the production, or did they find you?
They found us. Well, one of the gentlemen that was involved with location management, he lived in a small town not far from Port Hope, so he was familiar with it. And Port Hope is a bit of a gem of a small town in Ontario. We call it Ontario's favorite small town. It's one of the oldest communities in Canada, for that matter, and so it's got a lot of heritage architecture and very unique. And I think that's what attracted the location manager to come and check out Port Hope. We didn't have to really pitch it because it's so pretty. It's such a pretty place. It looks like a movie set. And that was one of the things we had to remind the crews. It looks like a movie set, guys, but this is actually a town that people live in, and you have to be very careful with that.
Our LMGI editors once wrote an article named Set Jetting, the uptick of visitors planning vacations based on where a film or TV show had been filmed. Have you witnessed the effect of this with your city?
We have in a couple of ways. Originally when the movie was announced that it was occurring in Port Hope, Part 2, there was a casting call, and probably had line up 2,000 people outside of the building where the casting was taking place. And people were coming from the middle states of the United States, so like a 6-7 hour drive to get up there to be part of the crew, or be part of the production. But we've also constantly seen people around town walking along with red balloons, taking pictures. During the movie filming itself, there was so many people around. And we do have walking tours in Port Hope, so people can actually walk around and experience the locations and take pictures of themselves. And they were good enough, the crew, to leave one of the smaller sets set up along a laneway, an alleyway. There's still part of the movie set along the laneway. It's become quite a selfie location for fans of the film.
You got to do it for the gram.
That's right.
What was it like seeing several transformations of your city town center, skipping from 1989 to 2016, sometimes in the same day?
Well, it was fun to see the amount of work that they had to do to bring in the vintage cars, to change the town from looking like a booming town to sort of looking, in the second movie, was a bit more derelict, so they had to make things look a bit more run down. So it was quite interesting, and they did some smart things. Some of the shooting where the town was more in the 1980s was shot in the summer, and then they came back later. They were with us through July, August, and September, and a little bit of October. So they came when the weather was a bit gloomier and a bit darker, and did the current shoot during that time period.
Well, Port Hope seems like such an idyllic place to visit, and thankfully, the clown was pure fiction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Gorelick, kindly tell us where you're zooming in from today.
I am at home in South Brunswick, New Jersey.
That's great. You are
Central part of the state.
Oh, fantastic. You are nominated for your work on The Plot Against America. Have you seen an uptick in features and TV productions in New Jersey? And if so, what do you attribute this to?
Well, the dam has burst here because New Jersey was always very popular with the film industry, but what we were lacking the last few years was any kind of financial incentive. And with the advent of the new tax credit program, we feel like we have everything now. We've leveled the playing field with our neighboring states, and also we have a really outstanding talent pool here, the second largest in the country. It's the New York area, New York, New Jersey talent pool. If you've been to New Jersey, you know that it's a very compact state, but yet there's a huge variety of locations to offer. And we're in the New York and Philadelphia metropolitan areas, so we seem to have now all the advantages, and the industry has seized upon that. And we've, in 2019, for example, prior to the tax credit program, which began the middle of 2018, prior to that, we were getting revenue of about $67 million a year from film and television production, which was, quite low by our standards, I think by any standards. As soon as the program began, the first full year of the program, 2019, our revenue jumped to 420 million, and that's 2019, and then it's just going up, up, up. We've had a lot of big projects here.
Wow. The SLM Matt Kania stated, "The Film Commission was generally the first call when we started circling a location, putting us in touch with the appropriate contact and letting us know if anyone had filed there before or if there were any red flags. With so much filming in New Jersey, how do you and your team handle so many requests?"
It's challenging, especially when a lot of the filming these days is to our television series, and we have multiple television series going at once, and they're filming a large part of the year, and the big challenge, television in general, is a very big challenge, even tougher than feature films, because feature films give you a lot of lead time to set things up, whereas these television series, you're doing 22 episodes or what have you, or even 13, 14 episodes, and the scripts are coming in like a week and a half before they start shooting. That is really challenging. And the first season of any television series is especially challenging because they're now just getting the feel of the area. Once they've been filming for a season and they know where all the bodies are buried, so to speak, how to do things and such, it becomes easier. But we have a very small staff. It's a staff of 7, and the calls have been, absolutely streaming in. Each production can have any number of locations, and we've had since the tax credit began, we've had Joker here, the Plot Against America, which was a huge production, the Trial of the Chicago 7, which will begin streaming in 2 weeks, I think, on Netflix, which also a big production. And the Sopranos sequel, The Many Saints of Newark, where they recreated the Newark Rebellion of ¡67, which was tremendous. We had to close down blocks and bring in tanks, and you can imagine what that looked like. And a lot of television shows that have, they come to us, they want to flip cars and T-bone cars and blow things up and such. We're very big on action. Yeah, it's not easy, and you need to keep good relationships with the towns where you're working and the counties where you're working, and working with Matthew and Ryan Ferguson. They're both, the whole location staff on the Plot Against America was terrific, and they had to be, because this was a huge production. Anytime you're doing a period production, it's going to be really challenging, because now you're talking about changing fronts of buildings, because even if you find, you're looking for the bones of a period set, but you're always going to have certain changes that have been made over the years, and now you have to go back to that. And some of it, yeah, is done with CGI, but some of it's done, with just these brilliant production designers, and it's remarkable to see what they do. They've changed, streets in Newark to 42nd Street and Broadway to Chicago. It's just one of the most exciting aspects, I think, of the job is to go down to a set and see what they've created.
Absolutely. Now, since the creators of the Plot Against America were intent on filming the story where it was set, what was your most rewarding location and scene?
Well, I have to say, I will tell you that, but I have to say, just in general, the fact that we got a call from Jay Rowe at the head of production at HBO saying that we have this movie, The Plot Against America, we want to shoot in New Jersey. It's based on a Philip Roth novel. That was gratifying to me, because as a youngster, I saw, Goodbye Columbus, which I think I was very young then. It was 1969. And this is a movie that was set entirely in the Newark metropolitan area, because that's most of Philip Roth's works are set in the area where he grew up, in that general area, the Philip Roth land, and none of that movie, I learned in subsequent years and watching it subsequently, was filmed in New Jersey, and that always bothered me because nothing back in the 60s was really being filmed here for the most part. So this was an opportunity to right that wrong and actually have a Philip Roth novel shot in the area where he grew up. Although they did want to film on his street and his house, and the production designer didn't like it, so they created these streets from streets in East Orange and well, partly Newark, but East Orange and Maplewood and West Orange. So they moved around a lot, even though you look like you're going around the block and you're, in the same area, not necessarily. And in fact, a lot of Newark, they wanted to capture some of the period area of Newark, and they did it in Patterson. But the most challenging location, I think, was probably the scenes for the Hoboken train station, because they wanted to bring a period train in. They needed to use the train station as several different train stations and coming and going. And if you've ever seen the Hoboken train station, it's a period train station from the turn of the century, and it looks like the Orient Express is going to pull in at any moment. It's got copper on the outside. It's been used for so many movies I can't even remember them all, dating back to Funny Girl. But what HBO wanted to do is they had to get this period train. They had to bring it in from West Jersey, bring it into the train station, or actually store it, then bring it to the train station on the day of shooting, move it around the train station, send it back into storage, and then send it back out to West Jersey. And they had to, of course, close down tracks in the train station to do this. And this is a Union Railroad, it's New Jersey Transit, and they were incredibly cooperative, but that took at least 4 sets of conductors and engineers and such to accomplish that, because you can only work so many hours a day, and it was just a very complicated thing to arrange. But because New Jersey Transit was incredibly cooperative, because we had a little time to work with, a little advance notice, and because the HBO production team is outstanding, it worked. It did work finally. In fact, everything. This is the kind of production that I'm wondering how soon we'll get back to it, because hundreds of extras in various scenes and taking over streets and streets and streets. It's a huge, if you've seen HBO productions, the production values are in the stratosphere. They're gorgeous to look at, as this one was. And so anytime you're doing period, it's challenging, but of this scale, I mean, we had a riot scene, we had all kinds of stuff going on. It was a big production.
Absolutely, it must have been quite a sight. How long did they shoot this for? And then what did the locals have to say about the period set?
It began shooting in April of 2019, and I believe it early September, mid-September, it wrapped. And they only did 6 episodes, so you can see that they spent a lot of time shooting it. Everyone was very enthusiastic. The city of Newark, of course, Philip Roth is quite famous within the city of Newark, a favorite son of Newark. And I think everybody was absolutely adamant that it be, they use locations that were authentic to Newark and the surrounding area, and also Jersey City and Patterson. As I said, they filmed in a lot of towns, and they're looking for a period. They filmed in Elizabeth, where at the Ritz Theater, which is a beautiful period Art Deco theater, and in Union City at the Park Theater. If you see the movie, there's a lot of stuff that goes on outside and inside the theater. But the enthusiasm level was great, particularly for a production like this, a prestigious production, and one that really is set in New Jersey. Oftentimes, New Jersey is used to represent every other state and city you can imagine. But here's something that was written for New Jersey and should be shot in New Jersey, and was.
Fantastic. Well, best of luck, and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Hello, Christiane Krone-Raab.
Hello.
May I ask you where you're zooming in from today?
Well, to be honest, you asked for some kind of cool backdrop, so I spent all afternoon to refurnish my living room.
I love it. It looks fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Well, we've been nominated for Babylon Berlin, and I thought, okay, the 20s, I'm pretty sure a real set designer would have some critical remarks about my decoration here, but I thought it fits the topic.
I think it looks fantastic. Nicely done. With much of Berlin destroyed at the end of World War II, newer buildings compete with old facades. What did it take to recreate and resurrect the mood, bringing this creative dream of Babylon Berlin into reality?
Well, let me tell you what's there. You know, Berlin is well known for its variety of locations. If I'm not mistaken, you can really film for every single period of the last century. You know, we have Babylon Berlin with the 20s. You might remember Inglourious Bastards. For the 40s, for instance, we have Germany 89, a German series, so late 80s. And Berlin Brandenburg is the metropolitan region, so you even Dark, a series you also know very well, I guess, was shot in our region. So I'm not saying it's easy, but the locations are still there, and it's worth to give it a try. And I think it really worked out with Babylon Berlin. Although I must mention, for very complex situations like let's say car crashes or huge demonstrations on street, the production also used the metropolitan backlot of Studio Babelsberg, which is really amazing to see. You have different quarters or parts of Berlin, different, the wealthy region of Charlottenburg, and then the poorer one, the proletarian one. What's still there is mainly town halls, for instance. They were there in the 20s, so we have fantastic interiors like town halls, like foyers, ballrooms, churches, and so on. That's really something you can see, and even a cinema you can see in Babylon Berlin. And what else it takes, I think, is fantastic creatives like the production ex-firma, the production house ex-firma, fantastic location managers and location scouts, because they are the ones who really know Berlin much better than I do, I must admit, and very good set designers who really understand what the characteristics of a certain period was. So I think that's what it took, and that's what's there, and that's what you can really see in Babylon Berlin.
With so much of this production taking place in public areas and institutions, what was your approach to keep the balance with the local authorities?
It's always our approach to keep the city film friendly. We are in very, very close and direct contact with the authorities all over the year. What we do regularly is we organize seminars where we invite the people, let's say from the district authority in Berlin Mitte, really the district, everything is happening in, almost everything, to make him or her speak in front of the filmmakers, to make them each other understand what the situation of, let's say, of an authority is, what the situation of a location owner is, and what the situation in the film industry is, to make the authorities understand why there's short notice, why they need so many meters for the trailers and so on, and for, let's say, dressing the streets. That's one thing I forgot to mention in the first place. Babylon Berlin had fantastic production designers, and I think of course Berlin is the location. It's called Babylon Berlin, and on the other side you had fantastic costumes, you had great cast, and you had props that really take you back on the journey into the 20s, and altogether I think was a perfect mix. What else we did, so we really have a very good network with the locations. And what we tried in the first place, for the first time, was right in the middle of the shooting of Babylon Berlin, the person in Mitte left the job. And so a new one came in that wasn't so experienced, or was supposed to come in, and he wasn't so experienced. So we offered the authority to take him on a kind of training on the job, take him into the production to make him understand what the needs of a production are. In the end, authorities are sometimes very slow. That guy left again and another one came. So it didn't work out this time, but that's, I think, a very good concept to make them understand each other and to really raise the awareness for the needs of the film productions.
Mm-hmm. So with over 1,200 daily location searches, you and your team must be very busy. How do you and your team manage?
To be honest, I don't know. We're only 2.5 people in the end. We have a huge database. What we do is we really focus on the authorities. We focus on the climate, the film-friendly climate in Berlin. We are not really the film commission that offers location scouting as such, because we have fantastic location managers. So our focus is rather to be in the office, to be there when somebody calls, to help them right away, not to look at, is it a small project, is it a huge one, is it an international one, is it a student one? So we are there for everybody. And we really work on the services we offer. We have forms developed with the authorities to make things easier. That's really our very, very main focus. And on the other hand, I'm really hoping to offer proper location scouting one day, but it's rather being very close with the industry, with the location scouts, with the location managers, and be in good terms, and rather meet them regularly to find out what are your problems, what shall we do, what can we do to help you. Talk a lot, try to understand, try to speak their language, and then you don't think about how many people are filming. It's really a lot of regional and local industry and international ones. We have 2 big ones right now. And yeah, and we have Corona that makes it very, very hard for everybody. So we just keep on going, and we hope that things stay as good as they are.
Absolutely. So what was your favorite project to work on since being the Berlin Film Commissioner?
I'm happy whenever there is, well, in terms of, we are now with the LMGI, let's say, we are very proud to have so many American productions coming in. But I think the flowers for this go to Studio Babelsberg and other huge production houses in Berlin that are so professional, to really are in very good terms with producers in the States. But whenever there is a production, or there was a production that approached us in the first place, film commissioners are a central office. They are kind of the first stop in the region. So I'm always proud when a producer contacts us first, and I can give him the services we offer. And there was, for instance, the producer of Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds, who contacted us first, and then there was Wes Anderson's producers. We met in Cannes. We had a very first meeting. That was very exciting. I really was proud on Homeland. We were nominated in 2015 for Homeland, because there were very, very tricky and complicated scenes to be shot, and we arranged a round table, and we spoke to all the authorities, and we made it work, or we helped it, and the production was really happy and grateful for us being there and helping and assisting. So that's probably one of the projects where I think, well, it was they shot more than half a year. It's always for a region, when there's a production, shooting half a year, that's really a long time, apart from all the others that are there. So, or on top of that. And but one project I'd like to mention, not American, but Indian. You know, there's one of those stars in India, Shah Rukh Khan, and everybody wants to have an Indian blockbuster coming in from India to then afterwards get all this film tourism and all those tourists coming in from India. So that was really a project where we were there right from the scratch, right from the beginning, and that was exciting. And exciting because it was the first huge Indian production in Germany, and you had crew from Germany and from India, and so everything was exciting and new, I think, for Berlin as a location and destination. So, but as I said, we don't care whether it's small or big. We are just happy whenever we can solve a problem.
Thank you so much for joining us, Christiane.
Thank you for having us.
As location professionals and avid viewers, we sincerely appreciate your hard work making these iconic locations and future iconic locations available for the world to see. Please be sure to view the 7th Annual LMGI Awards at locationmanagers.org. Wishing you all a great day.